Okay, so I finally got around to watching The Lobster, and now I just kind of feel like an ungrateful pleb for letting a high quality piece of art just collect dust around my house for several months. The Lobster is directed by Yorgos Lanthimos and it stars Colin Farrell, Rachel Weisz, and John C. Reilly. And I decided to do this review because my Killing of a Sacred Deer content has been received fairly well so far. So I figured why not? Why not review the other two films by the same director, Lanthimos, which is The Lobster and Dogtooth. I'm sure he's done other films, but Dogtooth and The Lobster are films that a lot of people tend to talk about. So, and by the way, I've already seen Dogtooth and Dogtooth, man, oh my, that's for a different video, but so anyway, usually I don't like talking about the plot at all because I want people to go into these kinds of films, more blindfolded because I feel like it will enhance their experience. But I figured most people that are going to watch this review have already seen the movie. Maybe not everybody, but I think most people have. So I'm just going to do a quick summary of the plot, very short, maybe it'll only be like a few sentences. So Colin Farrell lives in this future society or separate universe for all I know, to where he is forced to find a perfect match for himself, and if he doesn't, these kind of fascist leaders are gonna transform him into any animal that he chooses. And he chooses the lobster, hence the name of the movie, The Lobster. And with that being said, I have seen one of the most original pieces of filmmaking that I have ever seen in my entire life. This is certainly an ambitiously creative movie, and that has to be praised. Even if you weren't satisfied with the film, you have to at least give credit where credit is due, and this film is intensely creative. Everything from the aesthetics and just the writing and the plot, all that stuff is very original and unique and creative. I thought The Killing of a Sacred Deer was creative and original, which it is, but this film is just its creativity is just on steroids. It's just so many things packed into this movie that it would take so long for someone to analyze this film from beginning to end in attempts to unpack everything that's in it. There's so many different themes woven in through here. There's so many different kinds of metaphors and symbolisms thrown in through this film, different messages that the film wants you to convey. There's so much stuff going on in this film, and I absolutely loved that in this film. But I think that the obvious central theme to the film as a whole has to do with love and relationships and our perspective of that and society's perspective of that. And it just kind of conveys this fascistic nature to what if scenario, what if love and relationships were controlled by a fascist society. And it conveys these messages in very unorthodox ways that are extremely weird and disturbing for most people. The first 20 minutes of this film, the first 30 minutes of this film, you could tell that there was something wrong just because the score makes it obvious in your face that there is something wrong going on. But, for the most part, it wasn't so horrific, you could deal with it. There wasn't anything that was too disturbing, but it hits a point in the second act to where it just turns into a horror film. There's a segment in the second act where I'm this is a horror film. There's moments in this film that get straight horror. It's just a straight horror film. And there's also moments in this film that it's straight comedy. Unlike Killing of a Sacred Deer that kind of lacked, in my opinion, comedy, this film is loaded with comedy. There is a nice handful of laugh out loud moments in this film. And that was kind of refreshing. I thought it worked very well. Because the jokes in this movie, most of them aren't punchline humor. They're not jokes that are laugh right now, this is funny. A lot of it's laugh out loud funny just because of the situation that is put in and the things that are said during that situation. You just can't help but laugh at some of the irony that is conveyed there. And just overall, the comedy is very clever, but it's also kind of gut busting at times. Lanthimos is just excellent at creating these eerie, out of this world atmospheres. He really utilizes all aspects of filmmaking to create this really awkward universe. He utilizes the cinematography in really interesting ways. The plots to most of his movie are kind of really strange and interesting. And even the delivery of the dialogue from the actors. You can tell that I've noticed that Lanthimos really likes his actors to give this kind of monotone, unemotional dialogue delivery when they're acting. And, it really works because if done right, which I believe it is done right, it does create this awkward feel that you kind of feel like there's things that these characters are holding back and there's something wrong with the situation. The way that they deliver stuff is very robotic in the sense that they're holding something back. Like, Colin Farrell in this movie, he's just kind of like, I drove over the hills, and then after that, I ran some more, and then that's where I found my loved one. And then afterwards, we had to hide in a trunk. And after we hid in a trunk, we stayed there for hours. And after we stayed there for hours, I got very hungry. And then I finally ate something, and then I had to go to the bathroom. And that was really bad for me. Like, it's kind of like that. Like, it's just very, the way that he is talking, like, you can tell that there's not full emotion there. There is something there that just isn't right. I guess the only real nitpicks that I'll have to say about the film is, I thought the score was really good. Don't get me wrong. But there is this quip in the score, this loop that it does throughout the entirety of the film. You know it's what I'm talking about. It's the one that goes. And I think it was a unique choice for sure, and it definitely worked for a lot of different scenes. But I felt like it actually took away from certain scenes. Like, there were certain scenes that I felt like were already kind of powerful on their own. And then, that score would come in super dramatically at times, and it didn't really add much to the scene. So, yeah, at times, I felt like that score wasn't really needed. And I guess also just some things that occur, like, in the plot, like, as far as, like, some things that certain characters are able to do and get away with, and how some characters get from point A to point B are, like, a little shaky, and it's not really understood. At least, I don't know, I only saw it once, so maybe I should watch it again. Maybe this nitpick is really nothing. But in my opinion, when I watched it, it seemed like some characters were able to get away with some crazy things, and somehow, I don't know how they did it. And I also really love the ending to this film, because a guy like me really loves some ambiguity, and that ending just delivers the amount of ambiguity that I wanted, and it was great and enthralling, and I thought it was pretty awesome. And again, this is an art film, so to anybody who isn't familiar with art films or just doesn't like art films, just by me saying it's an art film is probably turning you away right now. But this is an art film, so it's not for everybody, especially The Lobster. Like, I think The Lobster is actually more inaccessible for average moviegoers than Killing of a Sacred Deer. So there's that. Just know what you're getting into. If you're the person that really likes these independent art films, I'm sure you'll get a nice kick out of The Lobster. So I really enjoyed this movie. I liked it a lot. I'm going to give The Lobster an A. Yeah, this was a pretty awesome movie. I'm damn ashamed I didn't watch it until now, but at least I watched it. The review for Dogtooth will be out sometime soon. Every time I say the name Dogtooth, I just get this like eerie feeling, like this daunting feeling in me, because that movie, dude. Well, thank you very much for clicking on this video and hearing what I had to say about The Lobster. And I also want to give a huge thanks to everybody who participated in the discussions in my Killing of a Sacred Deer Explained video. I've had lots of fun with that video. I've had lots of great interpretations and discussions with everybody in the comment section. And just thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This is kind of why I wanted to do this channel. I wanted to talk about these kind of art films and independent films, and I really wanted to talk to other people who really love art and love discussing it and love giving their 2 cents and interpretations on it. So just thank you guys so much, and I really appreciate it. If you really like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the Misfit Pawn channel to be updated on more film-related content.